Hello, um, my name is Kevin Strileckis, and I'm just going to be showing off my version 1.1 of JavaQuest game engine. Again, the idea behind this is to have a library of game development commands for Java that allows students to quickly and easily build a choose-your-own-adventure game in Java while using a fair amount, a lot of programming, but not nearly as much complexity and non-APCSA related material as you would if you were just working without this library. So first off, if you have the file folder in front of you, go ahead and open up the JavaQuest engine version 1.1, and you'll notice there are several class files inside of it. These class files are necessary in order to run the actual program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and inside this folder, I'm going to make a new file. So let's make a new file for public class, and let's give this a name for our game. We're going to call this just example game. Public class example game. Public static void main. Really just make a class and a main method as normal. Save it inside of this folder. Alright, now that it's in here, we have everything that we need right here, and let's go and get started. Alright, so the first thing that we need for a working JavaQuest game is we need a game window. So I'm going to actually start off by just planning it out. We'll need a game window. At the end of it, we will need to add game behavior to this window, and you'll see what that means because we only have a QuestBehavior class, but you'll see how that works in just a moment. Okay, we'll go ahead and add buttons. Let's not forget to provide or add cosmetic changes. We'll add some buttons. Lastly, we'll save as start, and I'll explain what that means in just a moment. And I feel like that's a pretty good starting place. I don't want to overwhelm us for now. Let's just go ahead and have this part all set up. So starting off with our game window, we're going to make a new game window. The game window is using the QuestWindow class. So we make a new QuestWindow object. Let's name it top. This new QuestWindow, and let's give it a title. This is our example game. I'm not the most imaginative of people when it comes to naming. We can expand this now, but hopefully you get where I'm coming from this. All right, now that right there is enough to actually create a new game window with a title on it. So I'm going to compile and run that. Notice it makes a new game window. That's the title up here. Default text, lorem ipsum, of course based on the dummy text from that old Latin text. And then over here is the default image. And everything is set up with the default coloration. The only thing that's been changed is the title. Alright, so that's pretty much enough just to have our game right here. The cosmetics we're going to come back to. But let's go ahead and make some buttons, because to run that again, you'll notice this is a starting screen, but there's nothing to actually do. We want our buttons down here. So let's make a button. So make a new quest button. We can call it start equals new quest button. And there are going to be three things we really need to give it right now. I'll explain what those are as we go on, but for now I will explain at least two of the parameters. One of them won't be for a little while. So starting off, we will need to attach it to our window. So let's start with that. Top, that's our window. Then next we're going to just write down the number 3. Won't really go too deep into what that means just yet. Alright, so 3, and then now the text for start game. So if we have this new quest button, we're saying what window it's attached to, some number, 1, 2, or 3. Only use those, please. And then lastly, the text that actually goes on the button itself. And we're going to come back to what that 3 means. Let's just compile it. Run it. Now if we run it, you'll notice there's nothing on there. That's normal. We've made our button, but if you've used any of the Java or Python window makers and C++, if I remember correctly, you know that when after you create it, you have to actually add it to the window itself. It won't automatically show up. So let's go ahead and add that to the window. We use our window itself, top dot, and then since this method is inside the QuestWindow class, so we do top period, and then add quest button. It takes in one parameter, or one argument, I suppose. It has a parameter of a quest button, so it takes an argument of a quest button. We'll pass it start, and really that's all you need to actually put this on there. So you have this nice little handy game button right here. Hit start, it's going to crash the program. Well, not crash, but it will throw exceptions every time you press it. It's kind of fun, actually. It's almost like a game itself, you know? Just keep pressing the button to keep getting actions. It's pretty cool. Anyways, you'll notice, though, by pressing this button, we get this change in our text. It says unset. Unset is important, because what it is if you hit start game and it doesn't have any functionality built into it, it'll change the picture to the default picture if it can't find one, since you didn't give it a picture, and it will change the text box into just the text unset because you haven't set any text for it. So it will make a change. It does have some functionality technically. It's just not the functionality you're going to want. Let's go on from there. I'm actually going to leave this as it is, and I'm going to come back to this one as well. Let's do some game behavior. Now, here's the thing. There is a class file for QuestBehavior, but you're not going to be able to use that. QuestBehavior is actually abstracted. It's hidden behind. The actual functionality is written by you, though the blueprints for this class are all in the abstract class QuestBehavior. So we're going to actually write a new class. Now I'm going to do this in the same file because you are allowed to do that. I usually tell my students that you can't because I just want them to focus on public classes. But if you just make a new class, not a public class, but a new class for, let's say, game behavior, that's what I usually name it, then you're allowed to do that. You are allowed to have two classes in one file just as long as the public class one has the same name as the name of the file. So this game behavior will extend our QuestBehavior class. And let's just go ahead and have that as it is right there. Now, since QuestBehavior is abstract and there is at least one abstract method, it will throw an error saying that, hey, you do have to override that method for perform behavior. Now, notice it just says perform behavior right here. If you check the documentation, you will see that perform behavior is supposed to return a Boolean, but I'll also tell you it right now, that when you write public, when you write the public method for perform behavior, it does need to be a Boolean. We'll take in one string, and let's just call that identity for now. All right, it needs to return true, return something. The idea here is that if we added in the functionality for the behavior not working properly, we would return false, but otherwise we'll return true. It's very unlikely that you're going to encounter that scenario where it would have a problem. But, just in case, I want that functionality to be there. All right, let's compile it, see what it says. It'll tell us that it's required to create a new constructor, because the constructor for QuestBehavior requires a QuestWindow, and we don't have a constructor here, because whenever we make a new class, it automatically makes an empty constructor, which has no parameters and does nothing. However, we can't do that since we do have to actually extend that constructor for QuestBehavior. So we make public game behavior. Here is our constructor. It should take in one QuestWindow, and it doesn't really matter what you name this one here. What does matter is that you then call super on that QuestWindow. compile that, it'll work fine. And then down here, you're going to use top as your, and let me put that in quotes, use top as your quest window. Now I know that matches the name in our main method up here. However, it doesn't need to. If this was a different term, the one down there in game behavior would still be top. But anyways, this is actually what you need in order to have it not throw an exception every time you press a button, because that's what's going to that's what it's trying to go into. Take a look at our exception real quick. It'll say that entered action performed. That's the whole point, is that it's trying to get to this act perform behavior. Action performed is a separate method. It's in Quest Listener, which is one of the classes that you get, and it's going to go ahead and try to call perform event. However, since there is no perform behavior, but since this class is not attached to this window, it won't be able to find it. Perform behavior can find the window, but the window can't find perform behavior. So let's go ahead and make a new game behavior object. Make it with that. Pass it top as our parameter, so that way you give it a quest window that it needs. You make that, you compile that, you run that. Your program opens up. You hit start game, and no crashes. It will say unset though. Alright, so that's basically all you need in order to make this start of a game. We'll go ahead and include more in the next tutorial.